I gave up my dreams to help my dad after his stroke. Then he gave the entire business to my brother, and left me with a broken lake house. Until I found a letter he never meant to share. I, 35M, have never felt like my father loved me. He wasn't abusive. He didn't hit me. He didn't scream or abandon us. He just didn't see me. My father is a self-made man. He built a construction business from the ground up, worked 16-hour days, never took vacations, always wore the same steel-toed boots until they were falling apart. To the outside world, to our neighbors, the guys at church, my childhood coaches, he was a hero. A man's man. Someone to admire. But growing up, I only ever felt like a disappointment to him. I wasn't strong. I wasn't naturally athletic. I hated the hot summers on the job sites he dragged me to starting at age 12. I liked books. I liked music. I cried easily. The only time I ever remember him saying he was proud of me was when I won a 100-meter sprint in 9th grade, and even then he said, "Good. Maybe now you'll toughen up." He called me soft, so often it became a nickname. When I told him I wanted to go to college for writing, he laughed out loud and said, "So I'd bust my back for 25 years and you want to write poems for a living?" I went anyway. I got scholarships. I worked part-time. I didn't take a single dime from him. We barely talked for a decade. He didn't come to my graduation. But about 2 years ago, things started to shift. He had a stroke. Not a huge one, but enough to slow him down. My younger brother, Daniel, 31M, had been helping him run the business, but Daniel's wife had just had twins and was overwhelmed, so the family started looking to me for help, suddenly. It was surreal. The same man who once said, "You'll never survive a real job," was now asking me to look over contracts, handle scheduling, even talk to suppliers, because I had a good head for organization. Part of me wanted to say no, to leave him to the life he built without me. But I didn't. I moved back to our hometown with my wife, Rachel, and our 5-year-old daughter. I put my writing on pause. I stepped in. And for a while, it felt like we were healing. He started talking to me like a partner, not a disappointment. We'd share morning coffee in the shop office. He even introduced me to a contractor as my son, the one with brains. That made me stupidly happy. But 2 months ago, everything unraveled again. It started with the will. And now I don't know if I can ever look at him, or my brother, the same way again. It happened on a random Tuesday afternoon. My father had called a family meeting, which was already weird. He's not the type to talk about feelings or plans. I figured it was about selling some equipment, or restructuring the business. But when we arrived, me, Daniel, and our spouses, he pulled out a manila envelope and said gruffly, "It's time you boys know what's gonna happen when I'm gone." My stomach dropped. I wasn't ready for this conversation. But I listened. He handed us each a copy of a draft of his will. A lawyer was on speakerphone to walk us through it. And that's when I saw it, in black and white. Daniel was inheriting everything related to the business. The company, the land, the equipment, the contracts, all of it. And me? I got the lake house. A small, crumbling place 2 hours away that we visited twice a year as kids. No sentimental value, no income potential. A footnote. I stared at the page for what felt like minutes. My hands were shaking. I didn't want to cause a scene, not in front of the lawyer, not in front of my daughter who was in the next room playing with her cousins, but I felt like I was suffocating. When the call ended, I asked the only thing I could manage. Why? My father leaned back, arms crossed, like he'd expected this. You never cared about the business. You said it yourself? You wanted out? Daniel's the one who stuck around. He earned it. I looked at my brother, who wouldn't meet my eyes. I said, I've been running this place for a year. I came back. I helped you recover. I walked away from everything in my own life to do that. Dad shrugged. That's family. We do what we have to do. Doesn't mean you're owed something for it. I was speechless. Not because I wanted the business, honestly, I didn't know if I did, but because of what this represented. That even after everything, after I showed up when he needed me most, he still saw me as less than. As the soft one. As the other son. I left without saying goodbye. Rachel followed me out. In the car, I broke down. Fully sobbed. I hadn't cried like that in years. She held my hand and whispered, "You don't have to keep chasing his love. He's never going to give it the way you need." But how do you stop needing something you've wanted your whole life? I didn't talk to my dad or Daniel for over a week after the will meeting. I kept working, mostly because we had deadlines, and I didn't want to leave my team hanging. But I was quiet. Professional. Cold. I stopped joining my dad for coffee. I handed off contracts instead of discussing them. I clocked in and clocked out like it wasn't personal. But it was personal. And they knew it. Then, last Friday, it all finally exploded. We were in the office going over some invoices when Dad made a comment, casually, like he was joking, about how artists don't have the stomach for real responsibility. I don't even remember exactly what he said. Just that tone. That condescension. That same old jab I'd swallowed 1,000 times growing up. Something in me snapped. I said, "Do you have any idea what it cost me to come back here? To help you?" He raised an eyebrow. "Cost you? You got a free ride. Living in the lake house rent-free, playing CO while Daniel and I do the heavy lifting." Daniel chimed in, finally, and what he said crushed me more than my father ever could. "You're not a partner, man. You're a temp. We've been doing this for years without you. Don't act like you built any of this." I laughed, that bitter, stunned kind of laugh that bubbles up when you're too angry to cry. "You know what?" I said. "You're right. I didn't build this. And I don't want it anymore. But don't rewrite history. I kept this place running when Dad couldn't lift a hammer. I took calls at 11 p.m., fixed your accounting messes, dealt with client blow-ups, carried both of you while you figured your lives out." My dad stood up then, full posture, face red. "Don't talk to your brother like that. You came back because you failed. Don't pretend it was for us." Silence. I looked at him, eyes burning. "No. I came back because I thought, maybe if I helped you, maybe if I proved I was useful, you'd finally see me. Not as the failure. Not as the soft one. Just as your son." He didn't say a word. I walked out. I haven't been back since. Daniel texted the next day, saying I overreacted and that I was making things harder than they need to be. I didn't reply. Rachel says this is a gift, clarity I should have had years ago. But it doesn't feel like clarity. It feels like grief. Not the loud, dramatic kind. The quiet kind. The kind where you mourn someone who's still alive. A few days after the blow-up, Rachel and I decided it was time to officially step back. I sent a short email to my dad and Daniel saying I wouldn't be returning to the company. I offered to help with the transition if they needed access to my files or contacts, polite, professional, cold. No one responded. I won't lie, part of me was still hoping for something. An apology. Let's talk. Even just a thank you. Nothing came. Then, last week, my mom came by. She doesn't usually get involved in this stuff, she's always been the quiet peacekeeper, but she looked upset. She handed me an envelope and said, "I probably shouldn't be giving you this." It was a letter. From my dad. Dated 2 years ago, right after his stroke. It was never sent. In it, he wrote things I never thought he was capable of saying. He said he was scared. That the stroke made him realize he might not have much time left. That he regretted the way we drifted. That he'd been too hard on me growing up, trying to toughen me up, because he didn't want me to be hurt by the world. He said watching me show up after everything, organizing his schedule, stepping into chaos, balancing work and family, made him proud in a way he didn't know how to express. And then, one line stood out like it was glowing. I don't know how to say this to your face, but I admire the man you've become. You didn't become me, you became better. I read that line 5 times before I realized I was crying. But then I turned to my mom and asked, why didn't he ever give me this? She hesitated. He changed his mind, she said. Said it was too sentimental. That it wouldn't fix anything. And just like that, the warmth I'd felt vanished. That letter could have changed everything. Could have started a new chapter. But he was too proud. Too locked in his own idea of what strength looks like. He wrote those words and chose silence instead. A week after reading the letter, I sat alone in the lake house, the one thing my father left me. The walls creaked in the wind. The dock was half rotted. There was a dead squirrel in the attic. It wasn't worth much on paper. But it was mine. Rachel and our daughter came up that weekend, and I spent most of Saturday fixing a broken window and cleaning out junk from the storage room. Our daughter helped, sweeping leaves with a broom twice her size. At one point, she looked up at me and said, Daddy, do you love Grandpa? It hit me in the chest. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to lie, but I didn't want to poison her with the weight I was carrying. So I thought for a second and answered, I love who I hoped he could be. She didn't understand. She just nodded and ran back outside to feed a squirrel cracker crumbs. That night, I sat on the dock and called Daniel. I told him I wasn't angry anymore, but I was done. That I wished him luck with the business, that I hoped Dad stayed healthy and that maybe, someday, when we weren't standing in our father's shadow, we could talk like brothers again. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I didn't mean to hurt you. I always felt like I was in your shadow growing up. That shocked me. He admitted that while Dad treated me like I was soft, he also held me up as the smart one. The one with real potential. The one Dad bragged about behind my back even while belittling me to my face. We were both trying to earn the love of a man who didn't know how to give it. And we both failed. But maybe that's not the tragedy. Maybe the tragedy is that we let it pit us against each other for decades. We ended the call with a strange kind of peace. Not forgiveness, but understanding. Now, as I write this, the lake house is slowly becoming something new. A place not tied to old wounds but to new memories. I'm thinking about hosting a family weekend here. Just us, our spouses, and the kids. No dad. No business talk. Just real time. I'm still writing. I've started a memoir. Not out of spite, but as a way to process. I don't know if anyone will ever read it. Maybe my daughter one day. She deserves a father who tells her what he feels while he's still around to say it.